This is Harvest of Light by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. In Portuguese, the book is Ceifa de Luz. This book brings to us new life. Yes, it does. It brings to us new understanding about ourselves, about God, about others, about our daily things. Yes, it is true. And today we're going to be studying chapter 30. Chapter 30 is about the greatest alms. What is it about? Think about giving. Think about donations. Think about the opportunity of feeding others who don't have the minimum to survive. And you think, well, I do my share, but is that enough? When Jesus was leaving, there were questions about who was actually viewed as the highest or the best in that regard. So you know the story of the widow, right? Remember that? The widow that gave the best she had. She had very little. And Jesus said that she gave more than those people who had so much and thought they were giving a lot, but forgot what mattered was that they gave the superfluous, whereas the widow gave all that she had. Is that it for tonight? I don't know. Let us read from Emmanuel and see what he says. Are you ready? Welcome, souls, dear friends, welcome. Here we are. So we're gonna read Emmanuel, chapter 30, in the book Ceifa de Luz, Harvest of Light. Remember, this book is not yet translated fully. It's almost fully translated, a few chapters away, and being revised. Then it will be sent to the publisher, the Brazilian Spiritist Federation. And once it's in their hands, only God knows. We just so hope that they are going to publish as fast as possible. Meanwhile, we're sharing with you the free translation because I'm sure Chico Xavier would be very happy to know that these teachings are no longer being delayed because of whatever reason, right? Welcome. That's a sign that we're ready. I'm going to read to you Emmanuel's interpretation of a verse in John. 1 John chapter 4, verse 7. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. John, the evangelist. Emmanuel then explains to us, in the study of charity, do not forget the greatest alms that money cannot fulfill. It is the very heart pouring out, radiating love as encompassing sun of life. At home, it appears in the silent sacrifice of the woman who knows how to exercise forgiveness without showing off her partner's faults. In the maternal renunciation of the hidden heart, learning to die every day so that peace and security may prevail in the domestic sanctuary. In the righteous man who excuses the imperfections of the deceived wife without inflicting her tribulation of affliction. It's the laborious and affable children who seek to repay the incessant tenderness of their suffering parents, the debts of the cradle which every gold of the earth could never redeem. In the professional environment, it is the spontaneous forgetfulness of offenses between those who direct and those who obey, as well as the disinterested and fraternal competition of the companions who know how to smile in the serious hours, offering cooperation and kindness, so that the stimulation to the good is the climate of those who commune with them, the experience. In the social field, the greatest alms is the avoidance of the malicious question, the abstention of unworthy thoughts. It's the sincere and constant respect. It is the friendly and generous phrase, and the gesture of understanding expressed without retribution. In the public roads, it is the kindness that nobody asks. It is the simplicity that does not hurt. It is the greeting of even inarticulate sympathy, and the unforeseen collaboration that the needy expects from us without the courage to address any request. Above all, remember the greatest alms of all, the holy alms that pacify the environment in which the Lord places us, that honors our families and enriches the spirit of our friends, the alms of our duty fulfilled. One day, when we all consecrate ourselves to the faithful performance of our obligations, the angel of charity will not need to faint from anguish in the presence of earthly trials, since fraternity will reign with us in the exaltation of perfect joy. If we could summarize in one sentence, this chapter 30 of the book Ceifa de Luz, Harvest of Light, by Emmanuel, has a list of actions that we could make it, transform it into a checklist. Okay? Because it brings to us clear direction. And I remember in the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec how important it is for us, the Spirit say, to have specific understanding of the divine law. They say the more precise we understand it, the more compliant we become. Often, people don't fulfill their duties well because they don't know exactly what they are. I'm not kidding. No, I'm not kidding. It's like the research, scientific research. If you expect a task to be fulfilled by a group of 10 people, that one of them may spontaneously do it, it may not get accomplished. Whereas if you delegate to a specific person, or to each one of them a specific feature of the task, then it gets to be fulfilled. So in the first chapter of the third part of the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, we get to know from the higher spirits that it's not enough simply to know the overall or the overview of the divine laws. We need to know the specifics. And that's exactly what this chapter is all about. He's telling us things that probably never crossed our mind. Or if they did, we forgot. We put it aside, and we're still in the old conditioning. So when he says the greatest charity, the greatest donation and giving is not in the money that we give, though it may be also helpful. So where is it? So he quotes from John talking about love, but he's saying love in action. And he says charity. He uses the word charity from beginning to end. In the first paragraph of Emmanuel's text, he talks about the study of charity. So tonight we're studying charity. And charity, as we said yesterday, is the differential in our world. Think about the world before Jesus. If you read the book Paul and Stephen, if you read the book 2,000 years ago, 50 years later, Hail Christ, Renunciation, but especially those that talk about before the Christ, we're gonna see how critical life was. Charity was an unconceived concept at the time. People didn't understand why they had to help one another or others. If you are rich, you're good. If you're healthy, you're good. If you're beautiful, influential, you're great. That's how the ancient Romans thought about. Until Jesus. When Jesus came in, the world said, well, no longer, because Jesus said, blessed are the afflicted. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who suffer injustices. Blessed are those who go through trials, expiations. Why are they blessed? Because they are this close from redeeming their souls regarding previous mistakes. And that's a blessing. It's like paying a debt. Well, he says here, the greatest charity is like radiating love, like the sun of life. So then he brings to our 4 different scenarios. He begins at home. He visualizes ourselves as radiating sun of life. And he says here, it is the silent sacrifice of the woman who exercises forgiveness regarding her spouse. Is that hard? Don't feel guilty if your marriage ended. But where can we be more forgiving? Where can we be more forgiving? Today. The past we can no longer change. But we can change today. How can I be more forgiving? Remember the lesson yesterday? Be more understanding. Often, problems happen as a byproduct of 10,000 things. How often our child, our spouse, our friend, our neighbor, our boss, our colleague, our friend will be displaying words and behaviors that are true byproducts of spiritual influence. And if I don't understand the full spectrum of where they are coming from, I won't be able to forgive. Even if it comes from their thoughtlessness. Because oftentimes we're thoughtless. We're reacting without processing, right? Without actually making a wiser choice. So let me ask you this. How reactive do you think you are? Because in there lies a big change in our lives. If I am less reactive. Sometimes we're so tired, we just want to push away people and things so we can rest. Or we want to eat. And these are signs of our animalistic nature over our human nature. And it's not bad to be an animal if you are an animal, but in our case, we're no longer animals, we're humans. And we're being invited to be humans. And to be human is to be like Christ, Jesus on earth. He's not an example of an angel. We don't know what angels are. I'm not saying that he was not pure enough to be at the level of an angel, but he came to the earth to show to us what it is to be human. Read this chapter, Real Humanity, in the book Living Spring by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. It's already in English. You can buy it at Amazon.com. Living Spring, chapter Real Humanity. And then we're going to learn from Emmanuel that Jesus came to point the direction to us, which is to be human, not to be angels. And to be human is to forgive. Because the angels don't need to forgive. They do not take offense. But we do. Because we don't understand. So we need to give people a break, like we would like them to give us a break. And say, you know, I understand that that person was probably tired and didn't think much what he or she said, or was things and people were getting on their nerves, and that's why they reacted in that way. But if they think twice, they will probably do it differently, like we would. So Emmanuel says it's the mother who renounces and learns to die daily to bring peace and security at home. I don't think people recall this as much as we should nowadays. Unfortunately, in my concept as a psychologist and as a mother in the United States of America, I can say that we're missing the boat as mothers. We're becoming almost like a motherless nation. In spite of the exceptions of mothers who know how to renounce. Many mothers think that it's just enough to gestate, go back to work, and forget about the most important part, their children's emotional, spiritual education. The physical is easy. To feed a child in the United States, it's much easier than in any other country in the world. But to give spiritual, emotional security, it's a whole nother story. And that's where we become a motherless nation. And no wonder what we're seeing. So Emmanuel is saying we need more charity. We need to be this radiating sun of life. And of course, we've discussed this yet another time. We understand that sometimes it's hard, single mothers, etc. But even if it's not about quantity, it's about quality. Though daily I meet mothers who regret that they haven't spent enough time with their children. But I've never heard mothers who renounced things in their lives and said, oh, I should have spent less hours with my children. I've never heard of it. Never. I remember when Virginia was a baby and I was at a Costco. It was mid-afternoon and I was carrying her with me, and an African-American woman stopped me and said, oh, I'm seeing you with your girl, how you're enjoying it. Good for you. And I said, oh, thank you. Why you're saying this? Because, you know, my children now are already in college, and I regret that at that time I chose to work instead of being with them. I wish I had spent more time with them. And this is just one case, but I see daily cases. Daily cases. So, Emmanuel is telling us it's also about the man who excuses the imperfections of the wife and the children who help their parents. Something that we're also forgetting. We're thinking, oh well, I have so much to do. If my parents cannot live on their own, they better go to a nursing home. And then you go to nursing homes and you see the sadness on everybody's faces. Sad days that shall be changed in the grace of true charity, true love, love in action, sunny love. So in the next 24 hours, Mentor Joseph is asking us to look at the sun in our hearts and see the rays of light radiating. And in our daily things in the next 24 hours, let us feel that these rays of light are emanating love to everyone whom we are meeting, and forgetting about ourselves. As he says, at work, we forget offenses. We forget offenses. Andrea Torres is saying to us, I see it every day in my job, right? At the nursing home. Is that where it is, Andrea? So people know it, right? It doesn't take much for us to see our thoughtlessness. And he says, at work, please forgive offenses. I remember, thank you, Andrea. I remember there was a guy who was a very, he was a very renowned scientist where I used to work before. But he wasn't easy. He was demanding, he was grumpy, and people were so intolerant because we are so childish. Though we are adults, we like masks. We don't like the truth, right? Majority of people, they prefer to see smile, they prefer to see people lying. But when came somebody who said the truth, they didn't like. And I remember I met him, and one of the projects I was working in, I had to work also with him. He was one of my colleagues. And thanks to Spiritism, I could look at him. He came from another country. And I could see the sadness of his childhood. I could see the difficulties of establishing himself in a different country and being pushed by science, because being a scientist is not easy. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of work. Scientists usually work super long hours. There are no breaks. There is a lot of pressure. And I remember Mentor Joseph saying, pray for him, understand him. And I could get along well. And one day he died. Nobody expected his discarnation to be that quick. And I remember one of the colleagues who said, let's do a memorial and recall his greatness. And I said to this colleague of mine, isn't that funny that when he was living, you pushed him so much to his limits. You didn't tolerate him, and now you want to show the world something you didn't actually feel? That's hypocrite. I'm sorry to say this. but that's not sincere. And then the other colleague says, I agree, yeah, people didn't like him much. And I said, you know, I doubt if he's gonna appreciate it from where he's now. I doubt it. Because he knows how everybody felt about him. So let us be sincere, wish him well, and leave him alone, because that's what probably he wants right now. That we leave him alone and send good thoughts and not fake vibrations. And that's something, a topic that we need to talk about. When people discarnate, they don't want us to tell lies to people. Some people are afraid of the people who discarnate, and they start saying, oh, I'm gonna do something because what if they come after me? No. The best thing you can do is pray for them. In the Spirit's book, there is a whole part in the Spirit's book that talks about funerals. And Kardec asked these questions. What would the spirits want? They want sincerity, but they don't want people to be bad-mouthing them. But we don't want to be hypocrites either. Saying, oh, that person was fantastic. Not true. You didn't like that person, you didn't agree. Be sincere, but say a prayer. Saying, you know, I didn't agree, but I wish you well. May you transition easily. May you be embraced by your loved ones. And that's it. Isn't that what you want when you discarnate? Or do you want people to sugarcoat and say lies, and you from the other side, you feel the vibrations? It's all a lie. Right, Andrea? She's saying, I am always very sincere to them, love but sincere. Exactly. So he's saying here to us, at work, let's be disinterested and have fraternal competition. And what is fraternal competition? That's a new concept to us. Fraternal competition. What is this? To be fair, right? It's okay to run and fulfill your duty so you can get what you need, but you're not going to be unfair. You're not going to cheat. No. You do what you like to receive. And he says, disinterested. I know people who are invited to do extra works, and they're like, oh no, I'm not gonna do it. They're not gonna pay me an extra, so I'm not gonna do it. So Emmanuel is saying, be disinterested. Walk the extra mile. If somebody asks for a coat, you give it, and you can give even more. You think it's too much? No, that's the Christ consciousness. That's the only way to go. And it's been 2,000 years that Jesus has been exemplifying it. And yet, we are so personally attached to things and people. We help if there is anything else that will come in our return, or else. And he says, smile in the serious hours of offering cooperation. Kindness to everybody at work. Smile. How good are you at smiling? The other day Joseph was saying, look at people. They barely smile. They are accumulating so much, the guilt on their shoulders, that it's so heavy they can't smile. So even Botox you can use and you'll be smiling all the time. No, I'm joking. But let us smile more often. It doesn't hurt. And you know, there's a difference between the true smile and the fake smile. All the studies in emotional body language shows to us that the true smile, you wrinkle this area here of your eyes. If somebody's smiling like this, they're not true. It's fake. It's just for picture. Though we want sincere smiles in pictures. But he's saying here, at work, forget the offenses, be disinterested, use fraternal competition. He says, smile and be kind. Just at work. And then in the social gatherings, he says, avoid that malicious question. I remember one day, somebody came to the Spiritist Center and saw that somebody was without the husband. And the person came to a friend and said, where is her husband? So that friend came and talked to me. Oh, somebody's asking about this. So I called the person and said, why do you care? Why? What kind of question is this? Oh, because there is no reason. That's a malicious question. In our center, we don't allow it. We need to be charitable. We are not going to enter our center and allow gossiping. We cut it by the root. I said, would you like people to ask about your life? No. So please do not ask about people's lives unless you really mean it and care. If you show up here once a month and you're asking just for asking, you're being malicious. And in our center, if we see it, we're gonna cut it short. And the abstention of unworthy thoughts. What is he talking about? Unworthy thoughts. May I say to you, it's gonna be strong, but it's important. It's when I look at somebody and I have sexual thoughts about the person. Where is the respect? We're crossing a line here. Oh, Vanessa, who cares? Do you think Jesus would have done it? He's our guide and model. But does that mean we can't do it? Yes. We need to learn how to sublimate our thoughts. Today, I saw in the news, that in the funeral of Aretha Franklin, Adriana Grande was singing, and then the pastor had inappropriate moves towards her body. That is exactly what Emmanuel is talking about. That's not charitable. That's an invasion of privacy. And we cannot even allow it in the Spiritist Center. When we had our youth weekend, the good spirits asked us to quote in a harmony code document a paragraph that you'll find in the school of Professor Euripides Barçanufo in Sacramento, Brazil, saying that we're supposed to have elevated thoughts in that place. In our Spiritist Center, we need to elevate our thoughts. Sex and other things, fun, are not to be, it's not a place for that. But it's not only in the center. We should be able to see people in the streets, at the beach, in the swimming pool, anywhere. But Vanessa, they're half naked, but you're respecting them. Is it too hard to respect people? Is it too hard? We need to respect people. I know people who have unworthy thoughts, as Emmanuel is saying, about spiritist speakers. They dream of them in inappropriate ways. We should take a shower and wash our thoughts and change it. He's saying that's not charitable. Do you think this is Puritan? Don't think that. Emmanuel is telling us that in the social gatherings we should have sincere and constant respect. Sometimes for people, long-standing works that we should respect. And he says, friendly and generous phrase. You see, this message on chapter 30th of this book, Sefer Jaluz, Harvest of Light, is all about a checklist for our daily lives. He says, a gesture of understanding without retribution, without expecting anything in return. And in the streets, he says, be kind without nobody asks you. He says, be simple, but simplicity that does not hurt. What does he mean, simplicity that does not hurt? That is appropriate to the context. And the greeting that is sympathetic, the unforeseen collaboration, it's when you're seeing a mother who has many kids and she's in need of a helping hand and you don't do anything. We do. We approach, say, may I help you? She says, yeah, can you hold this kid, please? So she can fix the other one in the stroller, so she can sit the other one on the chair, etc., etc. Simple things, but they will give a mother a break. I never forget when I first traveled to Brazil from the United States with Virginia. She was 8 months old. Carlos had to stay, he was working. And I remember in an 8-hour flight, there was a moment I needed to go to the restroom. She was sleeping. And there was a bassinet. And I didn't have anybody to ask. So I asked the lady next to me, I said, you know, I'm sorry I don't know you, but can you please keep an eye on her? She's sleeping, but I'll be brief. I need to go to the restroom. I had to trust. I had no other option but to go. I said, you know, if she wakes up and stands up, please pick her up. I rushed to the bathroom, came back, and thank God she didn't wake up. But I was so thankful to that person who was so kind to accept that important task. For me, it was super important. And to date, I'm very grateful to her. Little things, but for the ones who need it, they're huge. So he's saying, collaborate with those who need without expecting anything in return. So he says, in a way, when we practice all these 10,000 things, we are going to help bring more peace to the earth, to families, to friends. And he says there will be a day when we all fulfill these duties, because he's saying these are duties, these are not favors. Usually people think of charity as a favor. But you know, to do the good is our duty. We think that going to a spiritist center, practicing spiritism, volunteering anywhere in the world is extra. Actually, we're learning with spiritism that that's the status of our dutiful life. We're just fulfilling our duty, but in such a loving way that we will turn the earth into a joyful place. And that's what we call heaven. Is it too hard? What's the change in our minds here? To know that the good does good and it comes from God, so it's simply our obligation. Says Emmanuel, when we all fulfill our faithful performance, when we all consecrate ourselves to the faithful performance of our obligations, the angel of charity will not need to faint from anguish in the prisons, because fraternity will reign, bringing joy, exalting joy on the earth. We're looking for more fraternity on the earth. Let us look at this checklist and fulfill our duties. Let us wrap up with an affirmation. He says here, charity is the very heart pouring, radiating love as the all-encompassing sun of life. So visualize your heart as radiating sun. Breathe in and out and visualize these rays of light emanating and telling ourselves, I radiate God's sun of life, and thus I fulfill my loving duty before God. I radiate God's sun of life, and as I fulfill my duty before God, I radiate God's sun of life, and as I fulfill my loving duty before God. Go to the book if you can, it's in Portuguese. If not, you can rewind this video, go through the checklist, and make sure that every day we go back to these things, the duties we need to fulfill with the love of God in our hearts. Tomorrow when we come back, we're going to start chapter 31. Chapter 31, you see, we're almost halfway through this beautiful, fantastic book. Is about affliction. And he says, please take care of us. Emmanuel says, each individual returns to the earth with the affliction that is in regards to their regenerating tasks. So that he's going to talk about our afflictions and how they tell us about the things we need to overcome. And he says it's not enough to suffer, but it's important to take advantage of pain, converting it in a route of light. Talking about the harvest of light. May your light shine evermore, friends. A kiss and a hug. Lots of blessings. Until tomorrow.